We'll switch to English again for our next session. And this one is truly one of my highlights. I mean, we had a lot of highlights today, but this one is in top three, I would say. Maybe you've already seen the video message we showed you at Gamescom opening night live, sent by ESA Astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti. It was directly from the ISS, and from that we've already learned that game development is also an important factor when it comes to exploring the universe. In the next half an hour, you will learn more about how gaming supports ESA space exploration. So please give a warm welcome to Lionel Ferra from the European Space Agency.
Thank you. Everybody's leaving. All right, welcome everyone. We'll need to find the clicker. Right, I'm very happy to do the transition from the educational aspect in Germany, how gaming can support actually education in Germany. Here in space, we are also looking into a similar aspect. Recently we discovered that gaming will offer us excellent tools actually to build up some programs that we will use not only for astronauts, but also to apply a different method, a new method that we were not really aware of in the past, how to design a space module. So what you see here actually on the big screen is actually the astronaut Matthias Maurer from Germany, who is conducting onboard training. And this onboard training, he's using a normal commercial off-the-shelf VR system to get onboard training for this upcoming activity. This is something that we have developed actually, especially for his flight, and we intend to use further. Here you can clearly see a direct example of gaming system that we have used on board for specific space exploration. So if I show you here this diamond where we have different programs actually running within ESA. Some of them, or many of them I would say, are within the human spaceflight program. And you see in this diamond shape, these are many different projects we are doing, using and developing using gaming. This project, as you can see, I will not spend too much time going through all of them, but many of them have been developed internally within ESA with a group of people who have been assembled especially to develop this program. We have some teaching tools, as you can see from the top. We are teaching robotics in VR, and most of the talk today we will concern mostly the VR aspect and the augmented reality. We also, thanks to gaming, are able to reproduce the moon surface, which is our next destination for ESA mostly, at least for the human spaceflight program. We are trying to use gaming technology to help us better designing our space module before we send them to the moon. So we'll optimize the design. And for that, we use different projects, as we will see. We will build in Cologne. Maybe some of you know that the European Astronaut Centre is in Cologne, so it's next door. We will build a new building. We have also reviewed the architecture of this building for our needs, thanks to gaming technology. We will also teach next year to the new class of astronaut anatomy in augmented reality, and we will use also a commercial product for that. We will teach spacewalk in VR. And as I said, we are also reviewing some designs of space modules using this gaming technology. The bottom list that you see are in partnership with industry. And the interesting part here is that we are not really looking in partnering with traditional partners that you may hear like Thales or Airbus, where we are able now to partner with startups, with small companies who are specialized in gaming or in visualization or in some specific IT segment where we partner with them. For instance, in the list you can see we have some exoskeleton development, we have some augmented reality development, and some of them are also done with external companies, but it's all within Europe. And that's really the big added value. So the main areas where I will talk today in the next minutes, it's really some example of the gaming techniques we are using in the ESA world, but also, as you have seen in the previous slide, we are also partnering with NASA for the moon exploration. I will give you some example about collaboration. We are using also collaborative space module design, so multiple people can connect to the same server using a gaming engine again, to collaborate on making this design better for our crew when we will send them to the moon or around the moon. As I said, we are really using commercial off-the-shelf product, and some of the names you will see in the coming slides will probably ring a bell to you. So we have really using what you can play with. So for instance, Unreal Engine, we use Blender, we use Unity, and so forth. And as I said before, we are looking, and that's also the reason why we are present at Gamescom in the career area. We are also looking for new bright minds, and I'm happy to work with many bright minds, brighter than me actually, who are able to develop all that for the sake of space exploration. And also, as I said, we are working with small companies. So one interesting example here is in this kind of very bizarre slide that I designed for you so that I can see if you can decipher how the slide is done. The gaming method we have used, for instance, one very simple example is when you learn something, and you might remember in your youth, when you have learned something, you will remember where you have learned something depending on the location. This is something which has been used over and over again by the gaming industry, by the concept of the memory palace. So you will remember that you have killed a certain boss in a certain room, and you remember exactly where it was and how it was. So what we are using, and as you can see in the video down below, this is a training system. This is a bit fast forward, I'm sorry for that. In VR, where you actually go from one room to another in a museum style, where every room has a specific flavor, a specific feeling, where it's an open room. Here you can see it's very confined environment with orange bright colors. It looks like Mars. It looks like a construction area. Then you move to the next room, where the next room is actually another color scheme, as you can see. And all that we are using just to make sure that whenever we teach our crew, because it's very expensive to train astronauts, for instance, they immediately remember where this concept has been taught. And we have used that base really on gaming. So you can see here, for instance, in the video right below, that it's now in a green open room with big volumes. You can also see in the upper side of the slide that we are trying sometimes to make our program very abstract. And this is exactly the point here, is the abstract of this program is very conceptual. So the video you see, it's very museum style, very pure, like Apple Store. Whereas the other one upstairs here is a very highly realistic depiction of the ISS. So we have taken imagery taken by the crew on board the ISS, 3D model of the ISS, and we are trying to make it as realistic as possible. And you can even see an avatar here flying through the ISS, trying to tilt a rack to make a certain operation. So this is also something where we differentiate between highly realistic depiction and very abstract world. This is also a technique employed by gaming industry. This is also here a depiction. Here, as you can see, we use some Vive controllers to be able to get more immersed into the ISS, and I will come into this particular project in a minute. And here you can see some free faces. I come back again to this background. We also use, as I said at the beginning, the collaborative aspect that the gaming engines are providing. So when you go into a game, an MMO, and you want to all connect to the same game and play together, we use the same technique to speak, to review, or to get trained all together. And in COVID times, we were at the beginning not really focusing too much on collaboration, but as soon as COVID was striking our lives, we realized that collaboration is key, because nobody could travel. nobody could be trained, and by that, we were able to continue also some of the projects thanks to collaboration. So now, all our projects, which may have been at the beginning standalone, will be incorporating collaboration server, I would say. Right, something not only about training, we also, an important factor, of course, of any good game is the UX, so the user experience. And so the user experience is especially important to make sure that whatever you experience makes sense and you want to play again. We have used a very highly immersive environment here. What you see is we have taken satellite pictures from the moon. We have taken 3D pictures from the moon. We have recreated a 16 kilometers by 16 kilometer map, one-to-one scale. And we have put the future space module we want to install on the moon. And with that, we are able to do design review, including illumination, including dust pollution, including you pollute the moon because you walk on it, so you may have seen there are some footprints there. And you can also check that the lighting conditions are better today than if I will, let's say, put this container the day after. So we also include the position of the sun in the sky. So what you can also see in this little video, we have taken some of the climbing techniques that some of you have probably experienced in some gaming when you climb the ladder. I guess some of you have played Half-Life Alyx. So you have seen you can climb the ladder this way. You can climb in another game the ladder the other way. We have used this as an inspiration to see that, okay, if we need to climb on our module, how does it look like? Can I move around there? What can I see from the top? Does it make sense to climb on the module? And by that, we do the design review of this preliminary design of this space module early in advance before we build anything. And we interact with the industry to say, well, you know, you don't need a ladder after all. Or yes, you need a ladder. And if you pay attention, we have 2 ladders here. So we are trying to see which one is the best. Again, this is really for just depicting an example of that. So this has been used, and I'm not lying, today by Alexander Gerst at the European Astronaut Centre to make an assessment of the module you just saw. What we have also seen is in the 3 pictures you see on the top, you see Samantha Cristoforelli, Alexander Gerst, and Luca Parmitano. They have reviewed the inside of the new space module we're going to send around the moon in a few years using this massive rocket that you may see flying next week. So we will contribute to the Gateway, which is an orbital outpost around the moon to go down to the surface later. And to make sure we are designing our module right, and for instance, a key thing in any space module is how do you eat? How do you go to the restroom? How do I get access to my laptop? Do I need a window? Do I don't need a window? Is everything settled all right in my module to make my time efficient? Has been reviewed by these 3 experienced astronauts, all of them ISS commander, so they spend all of them about total 3 years in space to assess the current design we are working on. And you see some colorful model because we were not really concerned about the realism here. And you can see that they see an avatar, and the avatar of this kind of pinky T-shirt is actually an engineer from Thales connected to the same program, and they were commenting the design all together. So it was a collaborative design review. And in the end, we will build that all together. Of course, in this simulation, you can focus on lighting, you can focus on volumes, you can focus on different things. But this is really an interesting new feature thanks to gaming. Right, here you can see that we go back to a highly realistic environment where we are teaching our astronaut to fly the robotic arm inside the space station. This is a daily task, or almost every day they can fly the robotic arm, and they need to be educated for that. The program you can see here has been developed in-house, but we have used commercial off-the-shelf product to develop this. For instance, the model you see of the cupola with all these windows and everything comes from TurboSquid. And this is something, for instance, we have used. The rest of the model is a collaboration with NASA where we have created with them a 3D model. and imported it. But practically, the actors I listed here, some of the commercial off-the-shelf product we use. We use Vive, for instance, as the main HMD for our rendering in VR. We use Alienware for some of the hardware we use. Of course, we have some Valve Index controllers. We use Unreal, as I say, TurboSquid, Blender to edit the models. When we go to AR, we use a lot of Microsoft HoloLens. And of course, some C++ and Git for our repository. So all of this, it's an everyday, this is the language you speak when you develop a game. And this is exactly what we do. And you see what we develop here? This is a teaching system to master how you can put your cameras properly to enable you to fly the robotic arm. And this is also an interesting achievement here. And okay, the video goes on for too many minutes, so I have to skip it. Anyway, so if the clicker wants to work at some point, yes. As I said, we are looking from new actors to do all these programs you have seen here. We are not really looking into traditional, and this is a picture I've taken, this is a true picture, of a colleague of mine inspecting a rocket engine. We are actually looking less at this kind of profile, rocket scientist, pure engineer, able to do mechanics or thermal. But what we are also looking at is really people who are able to solve this gaming problem of making the HoloLens work, making all the menus and everything, the augmented reality I need to teach my astronaut or the ground controller. I'm looking in the upper right corner into a company able to create an exoskeleton to reproduce the spacesuit constraints so that I can be better trained. You can also see in this big picture someone using a Unreal Engine, and you see an Apollo module. We are also looking into historical data of Apollo to see what were the plus parts of Apollo and what we learned from that to avoid doing the same mistakes. So re-imported Apollo modules into the moon environment that you have seen, and we try to play with that to see what are the best options here. And here you see the collaboration using a Quest 2, and this is also a startup. It's a Norwegian startup also that created the program where you have seen the different avatars. So we are also bringing SMEs and startups into the game where before they had a harder time to be involved in such big scale program of the space exploration. So overall, what we are doing here is just we take the best of what has been invented by the games. And if a game doesn't work, then you don't sell your game, or you don't have any view, you don't have any download. For us, what we are trying to extract from the gaming industry is all the plus aspect of the program has to work. It's very efficient. It's actually very easy to do. And you can get into the prototyping very quickly. And what we also do is we can incrementally test things very quickly with some game engines. So you make a model, it works, or it doesn't work, you try to fix it, you reproduce and you redo. So many of the examples I've seen you now is most examples are based on VR and AR. But for sure, many of them we are using on just flat screens, and that's also working very well. So that's practically, in the essence, what we are doing. And if we look into the future, so you can see again our space module on the moon, we also use Photoshop. I'm sorry, I forgot to list that, but okay. And many other more. But what I'm trying to say is this is, in this little bubble, the vocabulary we kind of speak. Some of the words you might recognize them. Of course, you have the word coffee because we all work with coffee. And but something very interesting for us is really that we try to put the user in the center of everything we do, so that whenever we go around the Earth or beyond the Earth or on the moon or in one day on Mars, we do the right thing so that the user is at ease and it's ready to go and work immediately upon arrival. So that's also the purpose for that. And of course, I'm open to any question, even in German. That's fine. Not in Kölsch.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you just had it. Are there any questions? Yes, please, here in the middle. Please wait for the microphone so we all can hear you. There it comes.
Hi, Lutz Anderi, Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences. For many years, how many years have you been using games technology? From the medicine, when they train, using games technology for training. For how many years are you doing this?
So we started actually really in 2017. So it's pretty recent. Before we had more or less. And so we came to Gamescom to see what's happening there, just to make, having a shopping list. And in the end, we end up, it was an eye-opener to see, first of all, how many people are really gamers or game development, and that was really something. And then we started really to play with that, and it opens the potential. But also, it was, I think, in the previous panel, we have a very conservative business here. I mean, the space industry is very conservative, even more than Ausbildung.
Oh, really?
But yeah, don't worry about it. And so we had also to create some prototypes in some of the areas to see that, hey, if we train our astronauts in this kind of museum style to fly the robotic arm, is it more efficient than just sitting on a simulator or looking at a PowerPoint presentation? So we had to prototype it several times until it was convincing. So we started, around about 2017.
Do we have more questions? Yeah, here.
Have you gathered any data that would compare how much money, time, or any resource really you save by training astronauts in VR in comparison to using only traditional methods?
That's a very good question. It's ongoing. So the moon surface module you have seen right now, it's one of the studies where we are trying to quantify how much, and there is a postdoc student working on that right now, trying to write a paper is how much we spare, but this is mostly on design, comparing the traditional design. For the robotic training, you see the museum and the ISS. This is a complementary training. We will co-write a paper with NASA because we started to train the crew this year in July at NASA. We start next year here in Europe to train our astronauts using the same system. We will write a common paper to see how much saving in terms of time. Now, you can quantify the saving in time. You can also quantify the saving in how efficient or good you are in the exam. And the third one is retention. And the retention is, if you pass the exam, the classical one, I would say, using death by PowerPoint or just text and simulator, and you pass the exam again a month later, how good are you? And then you do the same with a VR-based system, which we complement anyway by normal simulator, and we try to compare the data. If it is somehow comparable, or do you remember better thanks to the famous memory palace I explained, or the UX, is the UX good enough to convey the system? So it's ongoing. We have some preliminary ideas and data that shows that yes, seems to be more efficient. Something I can tell you is we have reduced the time of training for robotics, at least. We intend to do the same for the spacewalk, to reduce the training time so that not only you spare times, but also you spend less time in the pool or you spend less time in the suit, which are very costly. So that's also another saving in terms of money.
Do we have more questions from the audience? If not, you just mentioned it since 2017. I thought it was going on much, much longer. Because if I think of ESA and everything that goes around exploring the universe, you might not think that it's that conservative.
Well, we really started to use the gaming method, hardware, software, back in 2017 on our side. For sure, we had some prototyping here and there couple of years before, but they were not mature enough. And if you, of course, everybody tried some VR goggles in 2012 or even before, and it was like, and then, of course, sometimes we tried it, and it was not mature enough, right? So, but truly using it for deployment was really something that started to bloom, I would say, in 2017. That was kind of the transition year where we thought, okay, let's go and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good one. So what motivates you to share your passion at ESA for games and game development?
Because it works.
And it's fun.
It's fun and it works. So again, we had some background work to do to convince, I would say, the conservative way of approaching things that it works better. And even now, in some of the projects, we are trying to inject this kind of way of thinking, a new method into it. And very often we hear like, oh, you know, it's a bit late.
Yeah.
We have already started it and we have already written the contract. If we add this on top of that, please prove me it works better. I say, yes, I can prove you it works better, but have you ever proven that your original method works at all? So against what was it compared? So that's always the thing. If you try to promote gaming, somehow you always need to prove your case, but the original method was never really proven to be better than I don't know what.
Yeah.
But okay, that's the way it is established. So we have to deal with that. So, but yeah, so but as soon as we started, people thought, oh well, yeah, it's true, it works better, and COVID helped us in a way. That's surprisingly. Yeah.
I never had the chance to talk to somebody who's working with astronauts, and that's why I need to ask you. It's a general question, but what's the most exciting aspect of your job when it comes to these topics?
Oh, this gaming. No, the most exciting thing is somehow because I think we are motivating.
Yeah.
So we are somehow working in space, although many things we do, are, as I said, are very conservative. We have to use sometimes old technologies that have been proven to work. If you fly a processor in space, it has to be resistant to radiation. So you cannot fly an M1 processor right now because we don't know if it's going to maybe work 2 days in space and that's it. But the motivation factor, I think, from our job is we are a source of inspiration for young generation, and therefore we are here. And yeah, because our topic is fun and it's inspiring. And that's what I think it's motivating every day, to wake up and say, okay, I think I will inspire people and to do things better, because what we do in space, we try to reflect also from every day on Earth.
I also brought a question from a friend, actually, that I need to ask you, and it also fits to our next panel. It's about sustainability. What happens to the hardware, to all the things that's been using in space and is not usable anymore? How do you recycle it?
So one very precious thing we recycle a lot on the space station is water.
Yeah.
So water is recycled on the space station to 85%. I believe at home you don't recycle 85% of your water. So that's already something we do. But also, yes, so some of the things that are disposed can be returned to Earth for refurbishment. Many things we are produced in space sometimes just die in space, and then either they burn up in the atmosphere or they stay in space as a space junk. But that's something not necessarily for human spaceflight, but globally for space exploration. Space junk and space debris is an issue.
Yes.
We are all aware of this, and there are some regulations. When you fly a mission to space, you have to prove many aspects about space debris. And so this is something we consider. But yeah, we are trying to recycle as much as we can.
That's great to hear. If you have any questions, I think you also stay around here.
We are still, we have an ESA stand, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
In
So go to the
building 10, if you want.
Nice.
7th floor.
Thank you very much, Lionel. This is
you.
your applause. Thank you.
Thank you.